Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Beyond Breakfast. Okay, so we're in the middle of Galut, and we're in the middle of redemption and exile and redemption. So thank you so much. We left off yesterday on page 2. He says, Edom in our times and restraint of divine mercy. Yesterday we said that God creates a world where He is often doing everything that He can to destroy the Galut, but the Galut, the ultimate Galut that Yaakov saw, the last one that had no end, he realized that's something that God has to complete for us, not something that we can do on our own. Okay?
It's not of this world.
Correct, because it's coming from a supernatural place, and therefore a supernatural being has to destroy it for us. Okay, we're in the bottom of page 2 over there, Edom in our times on the left side. Edom in our times and the restraint of divine mercy. Even in our times, Rav Dessler says, the rule of Edom continues. Remember, he wrote this again right after the Holocaust. This is him watching the world reemerge after 50 million people were murdered around the world. Yes, they definitely did. The kingdom of Edom still dominates the world today, and we remain under their burden of their exile. Yet, it is a guiding attribute that Hashem's mercy, chesed, that prevents them from fully destroying holiness. And he'll explain what that means. Because of the divine restraint, the nation of Edom provoked the fight on one another instead of turning their united aggression towards Israel. Meaning that if Hashem creates situations where the nations of Edom fight each other, otherwise they'd be pointing their...
70 wolves are fighting each other, and they're not all ganging up on us.
Correct. And this is what the Mishnah says in the Megillah. It says, Rabbi Yitzchak said, what is the meaning of the verse? Do not grant the desire of the wicked. Hashem, do not let the plotting succeed, lest they become haughty. Yaakov said before Hashem, Master of the universe, do not give Esav, Edom, the wicked, what his heart desires. Do not let him plan. Let his plan come to fruition. For if he were to emerge, unleashing his full potential, he would destroy the entire earth. Which is funny that this midrash says that, because who could have ever imagined anyone having the power to destroy the whole entire earth, right? Which is something that's
post Hiroshima.
What's that?
This was post Hiroshima.
Yeah, it's true, but okay, it's true. It's true. Post Hiroshima. Okay, fine. Okay, so he says, if his compassion, good point, Hashem restrains Edom, he limits their hatred and power, because were their hatred to be fully realized and acted upon according to their desire, there would be no survival, heaven forbid, for the people of Israel. And since the existence of Am Yisrael is the foundation of the world, the fall of Israel would mean the nullification of the entire purpose of creation, the collapse of the world itself. Now, he says that the destiny of the world of the hands of Am Yisrael, the purpose of the very existence of the world are entrusted to the people of Israel. Therefore, the world has no right to exist without them. If Israel were to be destroyed, God forbid, the world would be considered ruined and without meaning. The Gemara in Megillah says that Rabbi Chama Bar Chama said there are 300 crowned officers, wearers of royal crowns, and Germania of Edom, that's Germany, and 365 dukes, nobles, Rashi explained, in Rome, and every day one of them goes out to battle and one is killed. And they are preoccupied with setting up a new king. Right? They're too worried doing with their own politics. This cryptic passage refers to the constant internal strife among the ruling powers of Edom. Even though Germany, Rome are both descendants from Edom, they share the same spiritual source. They constantly fight one another. Page 3 at the top. Maharal in Netzach Yisrael explains this as one fights the other continuously, the fourth kingdom is fractured. Right? The Gemara reveals that this conflict is not random, but rather a result of divine restraint. Hashem is suppressing their power and hatred so they do not unleash it fully on Israel. Maharal also notes that the number 300 crowns and 365 dukes alludes to the deep mystical ideas. The meaning is this: since Hashem prevented the nations from fully acting out their rage and destructive capacity towards Am Yisrael, they are forced to turn their aggression elsewhere at each other. It is like a man filled with rage who cannot smash someone else's possession, so instead he breaks his own vessel to release his anger. So too, among the kingdoms of Edom, if Germany and Rome, the Western powers, were to unite in aggression against the Jewish people, the devastation would be boundless.
Rabbi, for 1 second.
Go for it.
He's talking about Germany and Rome.
Mm-hmm.
There were other concepts that if the Muslims weren't fighting the West and the West weren't fighting the Muslims and they both ganged up on us, then we'd really be in trouble.
We would really be in trouble, right. So the same idea.
Although this conference this week that was been canceled, was supposed to be Saudi Arabia with Europe at the UN to plot the establishment of the Palestinian state, which was canceled by this by our attack last
Or our attack last Friday. Which interesting. I didn't know that. Okay, wow. So, but because Hashem holds them back, they instead turn on one another. And this internal conflict gives room for other nations to exist independently and freely, which would not be possible were the powers of Edom fully unified. Nonetheless, the primary control of the world remains in the hands of Edom, and their rule continues to spread over until the arrival of Mashiach. We see this, by the way, like Israel can't do whatever it wants. Israel very much, unfortunately, operates like a vassal state to the United States of America.
Did he ever comment about Islam in any of his
So,
writings?
yeah, he will actually. And what's interesting is that the Midrashim speak about Edom as being the final exile and the final battle, but the Maharal, who's one of the only, who's an Achron, who's like an early Achron, speaks about it being with Ishmael. He says it's not going to be with Edom, it's going to be Ishmael, and that ultimately the ultimate war is going to be a war with Edom and Ishmael.
Between the two of them.
Between the two of
Not
them.
us.
That's why that whole final battle of Gog and Magog happens in the north. It's Ishmael and Edom coming to fight.
I heard an interesting drush on Gog and Magog, that it's the same person, Gog, who came
From Magog.
from Gog.
Yeah. So there are lots of different ways of interpreting it. It's unclear who this Gog and Magog is. I could do a whole separate, talk on that, but let's just finish this until this top. I want to say something at the end. Okay. Nonetheless, the primary control of the world remains in the hands of Edom, and the rule continues to spread over the world until the arrival of Mashiach. Until then, there will never be peace in the world because of the constant strife between these powers. This is also in Targum Yerushalmi says, "For the sake of Zion, I will not be silent until I bring redemption to Zion. I will not grant the nations rest, and I will bring comfort to Jerusalem, and I will not give peace to the empires." That is, this current state that we're in right now. End of the day, we have a reality where Edom, Esav's children, are in control. It's interesting because the world is such a different place than what Chazal had spoke about from generations ago. Like, who would have ever thought of like China as being like a world power that's going to end up like, some people say that if China and Russia is Gog and Magog, right? Now, what's interesting is that Israel's ability to kind of like very quickly get into Iran and destroy their defenses makes China look really bad, actually, because the radar systems that Iran had were Chinese, not Russian. They actually bought a super sophisticated one 2 years ago in 2023. They bought a super sophisticated Chinese radar defense system from the Chinese, and Israel basically exploited it. Right?
China had 3 giant transports arrive yesterday in Iran, and we don't know what's inside those 3 giant transports.
Right. So we don't know. Is that true? Because I've heard.
So, God forbid that they brought a nuclear warhead and gave it to Iran so that they could embarrass the United States.
Right. If anyone uses a nuke, then that country would be,
But they'll say that it's Iranian and not Chinese.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I say that tonight, Thursday night is supposed to be the big,
Well, it's
the big.
25th of Sivan,
Right.
the day that we were given permission
To go in.
500 years ago to kill our Persian oppressors.
Correct. So we'll see what happens. This is reliving the Purim story. But again, I think that I think what the Rav Dessler is trying to get at is that God creates a reality where these things are in motion. We're not in control. I don't control. We don't have any say about, like, Khomeini today saying we're never going to surrender to the Zionists. We're never going to give in. This and that. The guy's in some cave in some basement somewhere, who knows where, alone. Like he's been humiliated. There's nothing left of his country. You have Israeli jets that are literally flying in formation throughout his country, and it's a joke. It's a total joke. But yeah, you could have someone who's not in control, just like Donald Trump's not in control, right? The leaders are not in control, and each person is playing their part.
And if he hesitates, Hashem can give a 10.0 earthquake to take out.
Oh, there's so many different things that could happen instantaneously.
If Trump hesitates, I think Hashem shows that he's boss, even if Trump hesitates.
Again, correct. And I think that Rav Dessler's point is that, while of course we should do everything we can to prepare ourselves, we should do our hishtadlut, but at the end of the day, just remember, my friends, it's all Hashem. We are watching this game unfold in front of us in real time, and it is glorious. It's amazing. Hashem is the ultimate storyteller, and we're watching this whole thing. I want to be that guy sitting there with popcorn, watching the whole thing on the sidelines, because it's mind-blowing.
And the internet brings it to 8 billion people
Instantaneously. And listen, there's so much. There's so much to unpack. But Hashem, we'll unpack the rest of this tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.